I want to say, oh.
We're studying.
He asked you what the
We're studying today's
is.
Torah portion, and we're going to discover the bottom line.
What page?
We're on page 632. We're discussing today's Torah portion. 632 is Parsha Tzav, and we'll realize now. We're going to learn, as we usually do on the portion, we're going to learn Chassidus on the Torah portion. So, Rob, what that means is that we're going to learn the very practical and relevant messaging of the Torah portion, as opposed to the teachings of Kabbalah, which are esoteric, abstract, secretive, and terse.
You study Kabbalah?
Kabbalah.
Do you study? He's too young.
I study it as it's taught through Chassidus, yes, but not in and of itself. I don't need to. I study it the way it's taught in Chassidus. So Chassidus teaches it. So as opposed to Kabbalah, which is abstract, removed, condensed, secretive, terse, Chassidus is detailed, down to earth, practical, relevant. And that's the theme. That's the point of yesterday's class, was to show that progression, that Kabbalah without Chassidus is like being all dressed for the party and not knowing the address. You see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with this, right? Let's get into a little messaging of today's Torah portion. Page 633 is the beginning of this week's Torah portion. God spoke to Moshe saying, there are certain sacrificial procedures from which the priests derive little or no personal benefit, such as the ascent offerings, which are totally consumed on the altar, and the high priest's daily grain offering. This being the case, you should convey these laws to the priests with particular emphasis, impressing upon them the importance of following them conscientiously nonetheless. Therefore, in transmitting these laws, do not just speak to Aaron as usual, but command Aaron and his sons, emphatically saying, that's the name of the portion, command, Tzav. Because there's a reason to believe that they might be a little bit, a little negligent with this mitzvah, because it serves them those personal benefits. I previously taught you the procedure for sacrificing an ascent offering, but only up to and including how you are to burn it upon the altar. This is the regulation regarding how you are to treat the ascent offering after having placed it on the fire atop the altar. Although after it was slaughtered, it should preferably be placed on the altar fire during the day, it remains the same valid ascent offering as long as it was placed on the fire pile atop the altar anytime during the entire night until morning. Inasmuch, and this is the key verse here, inasmuch as the fire of the altar will be burning on it throughout the night. So this verse is saying like this. This verse is saying that there has to be a permanent fire, Eish Tamid, Tukad al Mizbeach. Where's that verse? Here. Actually, it's a little further, the verse that I'm looking for. I'm sorry. So if you turn over the page. Here it is. Yeah, page 635. The fire burning on the altar must not be allowed to go out. For although the divine fire descends from heaven to consume sacrifices, you must start burning them up with fire produced by human agency. The priest, chosen each day for the task, must kindle fresh wood upon it every morning. And he must arrange the cut-up pieces of the morning daily ascent offering directly upon it, i.e., this should be the first sacrifice offered on it on each morning, such that no parts of any sacrifice intervene between it and the fresh logs placed on the fire each morning. Now, just to explain, there's a daily morning offering and a daily afternoon offering. It's called the Korban Tamid. What does Korban mean? Korban? Anybody know what Korban means?
Sacrifice?
Korban is often mistranslated as a sacrifice, correct? But the word Korban, the root of Korban means Karov. Karov means close. Close. So Korban means closeness. So when we say a sacrifice, it sounds like you're wasting. You're sacrificing. Do you ever sacrifice anything, Marty?
No.
Who sacrifices anything? Right? It's a very old word. Sacrifice is it's not a word that we're comfortable with. But Korban, I think, needs to be updated to mean a closeness. I mean, a nice translation is offering. It's an offering. Does an offering imply that you're getting close to God? Think about this. When you buy your wife a gift, right? Is that a sacrifice? Oh, yeah. I present you with a sacrifice.
No, you're looking at it for yourself.
You're getting closer to her. That's what you're doing. I guess you can focus on the fact, Warren, you could focus on the fact that you just spent $10,000 on the gift and you lost 10,000. I'm here presenting you with a debt of $10,000. I mean, that's not very romantic. Or you can say, this is a manifestation of my love, right? It's like I said on Shabbos. It's like I said on Shabbos. It's how we look at crisis. You can look at crisis about what you're losing the familiar, or you can look at crisis as welcoming the new, right? Opportunity. So, this guy says to his wife, for our 50th anniversary, what would you prefer for our 50th anniversary? Would you prefer a diamond choker or a cruise around the world? I really want to splurge. So she says, actually, if you're asking for our 50th, I'd like a divorce. So he says,
Okay.
I wasn't planning on spending that much.
I should tell that to Judy. As a divorce lawyer, she'll appreciate that.
So, so the carbon is a closeness. It's a gift you give to someone that you love. We have to reinterpret all of this entire book of Leviticus. You read about the book of sacrifices and you're like, oh, so antiquated. But if you look at it as the book of gifts, oh, okay. I can relate to gifts. It's a love language, right? Okay, good. So what does it say here? Oh, so I'm sorry. The carbon that's offered every morning and every afternoon is called the carbon tamid, the constant offering, constant gift every morning and every afternoon. The moment that the temple was destroyed, even beforehand, when they realized that they couldn't offer anymore, they instituted prayer to replace these daily offerings. Morning shachris replaces the morning tamid, and mincha replaces the afternoon tamid. Which means our davening is a gift to God. It's like we give a diamond to your wife. Davening is giving God a hug and a kiss. Right? Now, the part I wanted to get to, the priest must burn up the fats of the peace offering as well as any other sacrifices that may be offered up on that day upon the remains of the morning daily offering. Okay, skip to verse number 6. This is the key here. The fire that will burn upon the altar must also serve as the source of fire used to kindle the lamps of the candelabrum, which must be lit regularly every evening. It says that evening.
Every afternoon.
What book are you reading?
Leviticus.
Are you sure?
He's reading the new
This is
he's looking-
Kumash. Rabbi.
Yeah, okay, good. Fine. The just articulated
They're making up stories.
The just articulated prohibition against letting the altar fire go out is herewith repeated in order to make anyone who infringes it liable to 2 rounds of lashes. The fire on the altar must not go out. Okay, this is the source of fire. The fire on the altar must not go out. It's called the Eish Tamid. This is where the Ner Tamid comes from. You know what a Ner Tamid is? An eternal light in the shul.
That's what I figured.
It comes from here. Now, what's the idea of this eternal light, of this eternal fire upon the altar? We mentioned earlier, but it doesn't say clearly in the verse, that we are supposed to light a fire on the altar from down below. But Hashem, when we offer sacrifices, Hashem would send a fire from above. It was some sort of a lightning strike. Quite awesome that Hashem would send this fire from above. And I want to show it to you. If you go to the next week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion was the inauguration of the temple. It was 7 days of inaugurating the temple. That's what it was. That's what they did. For 7 days, they inaugurated the temple.
Camels and
Here it is. Let me just get my other book. 1 second.
Wait a second. So I'm reading the wrong book.
Yeah, 653.
Okay, so here's what happens.
That's March 25th. This is Saturday, isn't
Maybe it's Teschof Gimel. Teschof Gimel, or
This is
Teschof Gimel. Okay, so I want you to turn to page 657. If you turn to page 657, take a look. Look what happens.
No, we're still in this week.
because he said this was part.
Here, if you turn to page 656, please. So next week's Torah portion, this week's the Winston, the parsha we're doing is Tzav, Parsha Tzav. Okay, so I want to point out to you like this, that if you go to page 656 in the Hebrew, okay, after 7 days of inauguration, of consecration in this week's Torah portion, It's next week's Torah portion, Shmini. Shmini means 8. It's on the 8th day that they finished consecrating the temple. And now here's what happened. Verse Chav Gimel 23. I'm just going to do it in Hebrew. Vayavai Moshe ve'Aaron, and Moshe and Aaron came. Eloi el Moed, to the tent of meeting. Vayetzu vayvarchu osam, and they went out and they blessed the people. Vayira chved Hashem el kolam, and the glory of Avaya was revealed to the entire nation. What does it mean? The glory of Avaya was revealed to the entire nation. Here. What does it mean?
656.
I'm doing the Hebrew.
Come to the tent of meetings, you won't be so lost.
Here, 1 second.
656.
Here. So Rashi explains over here that after 7 days, Moses and Aaron were getting despondent because the divine presence was not descending upon the temple. And they were kind of blaming themselves. Moses says, maybe I'm not worthy. Aaron says, maybe I'm not worthy. Right? But when the divine presence, how did they see the divine presence? It says the glory of God was revealed to the nation. This is when the fire descended upon the nation, upon the altar from above. When the fire descended from above, now they said, we see that the presence of God is with us. Now this idea seems to be pretty out there. When you read this week's Torah portion, you're like, okay. So in ancient times that have nothing to do with me, there was an altar, and there was a daily offering, and there was a fire. They needed to light a fire from below. There was a fire that came from above. Okay, wonderful. It's got nothing to do with my life. Comes Chassidus and says, this is deeply, deeply personal and deeply relevant. The commandment is, and it's actually a biblical commandment, it's one of the 613 commandments, is, it's one of these mitzvahs that don't apply today, right? We have this list, right? It doesn't apply. You have to keep a fire burning upon the altar at all times. Comes Chassidus and says, actually, it does apply. What is the mitzvah of keeping a fire upon the altar? The mitzvah means like this. You want Hashem's fire? You want Hashem's fire to descend upon you? You know what Hashem's fire is? Hashem is infinite. Hashem's fire is His blessing, His infinite blessing. You want it to dwell upon you? Here's how you do it. You're going to make sure that you light a fire from below. A fire that we light from below is the catalyst that will draw Hashem's fire from above. If you want to experience God's speed, God's blessing, health, healing, prosperity, success, happiness, peace, the blessings of Hashem, you need to first make sure that you're lighting the fire from below, exactly, from within yourself. Now, it doesn't really make sense because, Hashem's fire is infinite. My fire is not infinite. I can only light a finite fire. My efforts, my best efforts are just human limitations. Comes the Rebbe and explains, hang on a second. I'm sorry, Winston, I do apologize. You are correct. I must be a little off right now. It is Parshas Vayikra. Winston just corrected me.
Thank you.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah, you know what?
Because I'm reading this week, and you're like,
you know what? You're absolutely right. I don't know what happened to me here. I got mixed up with the Pesach schedule.
I think Rob just messed up.
So I sincerely apologize because Winston just corrected me.
You knew it. Yes, we understand. That's why we have rehearsed it.
Rob, I just said
Because
to Rob, wait a second, am I
we
reading the wrong book
finished the
this
other
week?
book.
No, we did Chazak last Shabbos.
Why
We did Chazak last Shabbos. Winston, you are absolutely correct.
Man.
Keith is correct. I stand corrected. I sincerely apologize. No, so you'll be ahead for next week.
I was going to ask you afterwards.
Yeah, I really apologize. I came in here a little later this morning. I was like a little off kilter, and my office is under absolute turmoil right now, as you can see. It's under construction.
You should put this on the, take it off.
Yeah, listen, it happens. That's okay. Yeah, so Winston, I love it.
Let's rewind. Started.
It's the same idea. It doesn't matter. Vayikra is the book of offerings.
Same book.
Vayikra is the book of offerings. It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
The idea here is like this. It's just how the Rabbi explains it. Hashem doesn't want you to be extraordinary. He just wants you to do your best. No, don't start from here. We're gonna have the whole class, Winston. It's just maybe cut out this little piece over here. But this is today's class. I'm gonna finish pretty soon. I'm wrapping up the idea right now. I'm not starting a new class right now. I'm just going to do, just teach this idea. It's okay. It's Torah. It doesn't matter where you are. So here's how the Rabbi explains it. He says, remember we said that at the beginning of Parsha's Truma? We said, and you should build to me a sanctuary and I should dwell amongst them. That was the mission statement that the Rebbe drew upon in the first night that the Rebbe accepted upon himself the leadership of the Chabad movement. He said in that first discourse, he quoted that verse, he says, our goal is to bring the divine presence down here. But realize that each and every single one of us is a temple. And how do we invite Hashem into our temple? You got to light the fire from below. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be doing your best. When you light your fire from below, when your heart and soul is on fire, that is what draws Hashem's fire upon you. And that's an amazing concept, which we see in this progression of the portions. In Parsha Tzav, 7 days, they were inaugurating the temple. Every day they were putting it up and taking it down for 7 days, right? Offering the sacrifice and taking it down, but there wasn't any fire coming from above. It's only the third portion of the book of Leviticus, the portion of Ashmini, which means that it wasn't the 8th day of the inauguration. That's when the fire descends from above. That's when they were doubting themselves. Maybe we weren't worthy. Maybe it was a sin of the golden calf. Maybe something we did, something we said. And the Rebbe points out, number 8, yeah. The Rebbe points out that 7 is a number that relates to the cycle of nature, the cycle of the week, 7. But 8 is infinity, right? The symbol of infinity. Because 8 is above 7. You need to do 7. You need to fill up your week. You fill up your week. That's when Hashem blesses you with more blessings than you ever dreamed possible. This is a major recurring theme which we find, for example, in Pesach. Pesach, when you check for chametz, how do you check for chametz? It says if you have a hole in your wall, in the old times you had 30 thick walls, you had a hole in your wall, do you have to knock down the house to go check the whole wall? No, you only have to check as far as your arm reaches. You have to check as far as your arm reaches, Hashem will do the rest. Same thing with Moses when it came to the construction of the tabernacle. The tabernacle had these huge tapestries that covered the whole thing, right? The sides and the top. I mean, it must have needed a crane for that. You lift a blanket of that size. It's huge. So it says that Moses himself was required to build the tabernacle. How's he going to do that? So he started. He was like, God, not happening. So God says, you start. You do your best. You schlep, and then you'll see. Same. We find this the recurring theme. When Moses needed to count the census of the people of Israel. So the tribes of Israel were from the age of 20 upwards. But the tribe of Levi was from the age of 30 days and upwards. Now, how are you going to count infants? When you count infants, it's going to be in their mother's, nurseries. And that's not going to be very modest for Moses to enter into every nursery. He couldn't. It's not modest. So what did he do? He had to go to the door of every tent. And as he went to the door of every tent, the heavenly voice would come out and declare, there are so-and-so amount of Levites in this tent. And you had to go to every single tent for the heavenly voice. You ask a question. If God already knows the answer,
why is he asking me to do it?
Why does he ask me to do it? Right? And besides, I could have gone to the entrance of the whole camp and he could have given me the answer there. Right. Why not have to go to every individual tent? Because you have got to do your part. And when you do your part, that is when Hashem does his part. Hashem wants to rest a fire upon you. He wants to send his blessings. But to be able to receive his blessings, you have to light the fire from below. Now, what does the fire from below mean? It means that you've got to be passionate about your Yiddishkeit, about your faith. You can't just be cold, like a cold fish. You've got to be the Rebbe specifies Torah, prayer, and good deeds. What does that mean? When you study Torah, you don't just do it like you do it. We shuckle, we move, we shake a leg, right? We get into it. When we dive in with our hearts. Not something which you do just as a routine. Oh, it's not time to pray. It's not time to finish. No, you do it with your heart. You do it with like you mean it. And when it comes to the rest of the mitzvahs as well, to the good deeds, you don't do it just to fulfill your obligation. Oh, I did enough. Now I'm exempt. No. You go. You keep on moving. You do it above and beyond. And when you serve God with a fire, the Rabbi uses the words flamadic fire, like a flaming fire. When you serve Hashem with a heart that's set on fire, that is what draws Hashem's blessing upon you as well. This, again, is a beautiful example of Chassidus, taking a mitzvah which is no longer relevant. Can't do it today. And it shows us, the soul of Torah, how we indeed are able to apply this on a very, very practical level right here, right now. Any questions?
It's all metaphorical.
How's it metaphorical? How's it what?
These are all metaphorical then in our life today.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's the soul of Torah, right? So, but it's practical. It's not just metaphorical. It's actually practical. It tells you how to serve Hashem, right? Prayers could become mundane. I use a book called My Prayer that helps with more passion and understanding of what we're saying. That's from Daniel, the trucker. Beautiful. We have a new student, Yuri, from Amsterdam. Yom Tov. Great. Okay. So, folks, I gotta bounce. So have a lovely day, everybody. Thank you for joining me here today. Be well.
Rabbi, why don't we have a